Okay, we've reached the end of round 7, and we'll end this with 1 double crochet. So we had our single and then our double, and then we are going to slip into that first double crochet. Now, like I said, I know that's going to look a little awkward. You're doing your double, single, double, single, double, single, but it makes sense and it lays really nicely in the end. We're going to start our round with 2 double crochets, or 2 chains, sorry, and our starting double crochet into that same chain space, like we will for every row. Now what we're going to do is we're going to chain 1 and skip this first double crochet. We're going to work a cluster into our single crochet. Now we've chained 1 to make up for this stitch that we are skipping. So we're going to work our cluster. And how we do that is we yarn over, go into that stitch, pull your yarn through, yarn over again, go into that stitch for a second time, pull your yarn through, yarn over for a third time, pull another strand through, and we'll have a total of 7 strands of yarn on our hook. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And we're going to yarn over and pull through 6 of those strands, yarn over and pull through those last 2. Now we're going to chain 1, skip our double crochet, and into our single crochet we're going to work another cluster. 1 time through, 2 times through, and 3 times through till you have 7 strands of yarn on your hook. Yarn over and pull through 6 of those strands. Yarn over, pull through 2, and chain 1. Skip your double crochet and work a cluster into your single crochet. So the pattern is we are going to work our cluster, and then we're going to chain 1, skip the next stitch, work a cluster into our single crochet. So make sure you're working your clusters into your single crochet, and that will be more clear at the end of this round. But for now, just continue this pattern of working a cluster into every single crochet around, which will mean you're skipping the one just immediately following your cluster. Make sure you're chaining 1 after you complete your cluster. So go ahead and continue that pattern around until we have all of our clusters made, and I will meet you on the other side. Okay, I'm coming into the end of my cluster row, my first row of clusters. I have chained 1 after this cluster, and I'm going to skip and then work my last cluster, and then chain 1. And as you see, that next one is a double crochet, and then I have my chain. So I'm going to join to the top of my double, my first one made, and I've completed my first row of clusters. Now this is really the only place you're going to be able to tell that you have a seam is going to be a smaller area in here, but it looks very nice in the end, so everything will work up just fine. Round 9, we're going to chain 2 and then work that double crochet into the same chain space. again, as we always will for each new round. Now, this is all, this row and the row we are about to do is going to complete one full stitch. So if you're making this in a smaller form altogether, you obviously, it won't take you that long to complete the stitch we're going to do. But because we are making a big bag or a bigger bag, this full stitch basically works around the two sides of our clusters. So what you're going to do is we have this first double crochet from our last round, not from our cluster round, but the row before that. After we've worked our double crochet into the same as the chain space, we're going to work a front post double crochet around that double crochet. The double crochet from row 7. Let me make sure I said that right. Yes, that is row 7. So we're going to wrap our yarn around. We're going to work a front post double crochet. And for those who don't know this stitch, you're going to work it like you are working a double crochet, only you're going around this stitch. So you're going to go in and come out so that your hook is right under the stitch. You're going to yarn over and pull through and work this just like you're working a double crochet. Okay? And then we're going to work one single crochet into the top of this cluster, the stitch that's at the top of the cluster. Just work a single crochet. Okay? Now, the first round of these stitches is going to be a little tough because we are going to now work a back post double crochet around this double crochet, and it gets easier as you move up to the next round, but for this one it's a little tough because it's not a real defined space. I have to come in this way to look at it from the front to make sure I'm going into that double, but then it might be easier for you to come around to the back to make sure you're going around that stitch, pull through, and then we're working a back post double crochet around that next double crochet right before our next cluster. But then we're going to come right into there and work a single crochet into that cluster, the top of that cluster stitch. So we're kind of filling in the blanks, our little gaps here. We're going to next, after working that single crochet on top of that cluster, we're going to work a front post. So you're going front to back. So we'll work our next front post double crochet. Oops. And then a single crochet on top of our cluster. Then we're working our back behind. Okay, and I'm going to make this look really complicated. So for anybody who's starting, that's going to be tough. But we work this next double crochet around that post, around that double crochet. So we're going in and through the back of that. Oops. Okay. If I work into that back post, you'll see on the front side that I'm coming around that double crochet just from the back side. Okay, so like I said, this first round is going to be a bit awkward, so we work our single crochet on top of that cluster. So don't get frustrated on this end, because once you move up to your next round of clusters, this is going to be very easy. Much easier, let me just say that. So just remember, after you work your back post or your front post double crochet, that you're working a single crochet right on top of that next cluster stitch. So again, we're going to come back because we just did a front post. We're going to come back and work a back post around the next double crochet. Single crochet on top of our cluster. And that single crochet is just kind of locking it all in place there, our cage. And then we'll work our next front post double crochet around that double. And then a single crochet on top of our cluster. So just repeat what we're doing. Repeat this around till you get to the end. And I will meet you just before we join over here so I could show you the end part of this round. I'll see you in just a bit. Okay, I have just finished making a front post double crochet. I have one cluster left, so I'm going to go ahead and work a single crochet. And then I'm going to work a back post around that last double crochet. And I'm just going to join to the top of this double crochet, the starting double crochet. Okay. So as you can see, we have these front posts that come around, and we have our back posts on the back. Now, for the next round, this is row 10, we are going to chain 2, work our double crochet into that same space, and now we are going to chain 1 because we are going to start working our clusters again for round 10. Or wait, let me see. Okay, so for round 10, we are going to work, we're going to skip that first. This is our double crochet, and now you can see it more defined, so it's going to be easier to know where to put your clusters in this round. We're going to work our cluster on top of our other cluster, which it may not look immediately like we are doing, but you're going to chain up or yarn over, go into that next stitch. You're skipping your double crochet, going into your single crochet, work your cluster, and chain 1. And then we're going to skip this next one, which is our double crochet back post, and work into our single crochet, our next cluster. Now you're going to repeat your row of clusters around, the same as we did for row 9 or 8. I'm getting my rows mixed up here. Our first row of clusters, we're working the same exact way. We'll skip that double crochet, and you can tell it veers off because I'm working it a little tight here, but that is the top of that double crochet. So I'm skipping this. I need to make sure I'm chaining one after each of my clusters because I'm skipping that next stitch, and I'm working another cluster into the single crochet, which sits right above my last cluster from that previous row. At the end, they will all line up. So we're just going to continue this around. We chained one after our cluster, skip this, work into that next single crochet, our next cluster, and go ahead and complete your clusters around. And I will meet you at the end so that I can show you how we're going to work round 11. And after round 11, everything is just pretty much repetitive all the way up until you've reached your desired height for your bag. So go ahead and pause your video now, and I'll see you right back here. Okay, now we are coming into the end of round 10. And as you see, we worked one cluster. We have our front post double crochet right here. So we're skipping that. We've already chained one on top of that cluster. And we skip and work in one more cluster into the top of that single crochet. Okay. Chain one, because we are going to skip this chain and chain space, and we are going to work into the top of that first double crochet made. Now from here, you are pretty much just alternating between row 9. Let's see, we're going to alternate between row 9 and 10. And I will show you how we will start this. For round 11, we're going to chain 2 and work our double crochet into that same space. Now we are going to be working our front post double crochet around our last front post double crochet. So this is where it gets a little easier. You're going to yarn over, come right under that front post double crochet and work another front post double crochet, and then work a single crochet into the top of that cluster. And now you'll also have your back post double crochet. So that will be much easier for you to come in, just go right under that back post double crochet and work your next back post double crochet. Following with a single crochet on top of our next cluster stitch. So you're just repeating that around front post, and you will not have anywhere near the problems that you may have had or the struggles you may have had working those first set of front and back post double crochet, because everything is pretty clear now. And then single crochet on top of my cluster, front post, alternating just like you were before, always making sure to follow that front or back post double crochet with a single crochet to the top of your next cluster. But you can see now how we are starting to build up that look of our vines, our little grapes in there. and you're going to continue this around. You will join. You don't really need a stitch marker for this. Everything is pretty much obvious. When you get around, you're going to see that first hump there, and you'll join to the top on that of the that first double crochet that you made. But you're going to continue to alternate. After we work this front post, back post round, we're going to go to our next round and again work another round of clusters, and then we will work again front post, back post. So you'll always be working your front post and back post 2 rows down. You'll be working it just below your last row of clusters. But now it's more evident where you need to put those. So go ahead and grow your bag to whatever size you like. This one, I want to say this is about 10 inches. I wish I could get a better, I have a picture of it, so that will be on here. But this is, and it turned out so nice. I absolutely love this bag. Love this color, everything. And I made it into a little bit of a backpack, a one shoulder. So I stitched it up here, I stitched it down here, and I'll meet you back here. I have another stitch that I did that I worked in between one row and then one row up from it so that I could put in a little wind around to finish that off and to make it a closure so that you can pull tight. You could, you know, wind through a band or whatever you'd like to do. So anyhow, go ahead and finish growing this, like I said, the size you want it to be, and I will meet you back to show you how another option, something that you can do to finish off. See you in a bit. Okay, I have finished my bag, the height that I'm going to have my bag. It's almost 10 inches. And now I'm going to show you how to do, let me grab my other bag that I finished. I'm going to show you how to do this top part here that allows you to wind in either some kind of closure, whatever your choice is. If you want to chain a closure, you can just work your own ribbon chain and then just weave it in and out. But as you see, and this is just an option, there are several things that you could do. I'm going to show you this and the basket. But for this one, you could see that these pull pretty tight across here, almost giving the basket or the bag a more rounded look as it comes to the top. And so while there is a little bit of a stretch to that, these are pretty much, they're chained pretty close together in this whole section. So I'm going to show you how to make this type of ending for your bag project, and I will also show you that pie crust pinch top look if you want to make a basket that looks like this. Now I took off the handle in an earlier video to show you, but it's got that pinch top, kind of a scallop looking edges. Very pretty top to that. So I'll show you how to do this as well, which also kind of incorporates that same concept. So you could wrap a little bow around this end, around this edge. There are so many things you could do, fun things with this. I know my lighting's not great on this, so it's hard for you to see, but let's get started. Okay, so for the next part, you want to make sure you're doing this pretty loose. You're going to be working a series of slip stitches in small spaces, well, in longer spaces. So we're going to end up kind of pulling these areas together a little bit, but you want to keep this as loose as you can without making it sag. But basically you're becoming a sewing machine. You have your working yarn back here in the back already. We have just completed that last row. We are going to immediately go under this first front post double crochet, pull this working yarn forward, and pull it through. And then we're going to go into the next side, the other side of the front post double crochet, and pull it through. Okay, so we are now working along the front edge of our bag. So we have, the next thing we have is our back post. Like I said, you're basically going to become a sewing machine here. You're going to go in, grab this yarn, pull through, in, grab this yarn, pull through, and then you're going to pull through this one. You're going to pull through this one. Then you're going in, pull your yarn, go in, pull your yarn. Then you're going to pull through this one and through this one. So you're making a series of chains around this front area, and you're going to have, and the reason I say to be loose here is because we're going to be using these 2 chain areas here. This is not a good example of how we're going to be winding through, because this is our starting point here, because we had just ended our bag here and we had to pull through. But let me just show you how this is going to work. We've got our one already wrapped. I consider this really the first part of this, because this is the first part where it's really going to be able to show you how you can wind your ending ribbon or whatever gadget you use. So we're going to go in, pull through, in, pull through. We've done this all around that back post double crochet. So now we're going to pull through this, and we're going to pull through this one. Okay, so we've got this space, and then we're going to come to the next. We're only doing front post and back post double crochets. We're doing this through each and every front post, back post double crochet. So like I said, you want to do these loosely, because you don't want it to really tighten this space up. If you do it tighter, it's just it'll be fine. It's just going to pull your whole top together more, and it's going to make it a little harder for you to wind through. And there are so many different ways you can do this. This is just one way that I'm showing you. So we're going to come back in. We're just doing this around each and every. This is our back post. We're coming in, pulling through, pulling through, pulling through. See how loose I'm doing that? I don't need to put any tension on that whatsoever. Oops, sorry about that. Just knocked into the camera. So I've got a workable space to wind through whatever I end up winding through there. And I'm just going to come in and work it nicely through and lightly. Okay, so I'm going to do this slowly one more time. My next is a back post. I just worked a front post, now my back post. I go in before the back post, pull my yarn through, go in after the back post, pull my yarn through, pull my yarn through here, just slide it all the way through like so, and then onto our front post. We go before the front post, pull our yarn through, go after the front post, pull our yarn through, and then just slide this up and through, up and through carefully so you don't lose that. So as you see, we're just creating little bars, little ones across the top row, and that's going to be hidden even more. Go ahead and continue on all around to the end of the bag. When we get to the end, I will come back in. You can go ahead and pause. When I get to the end, I will show you how to end this row and get started with the next. Another reason, really quickly, let me tell you, another reason that you want to be loose with these stitches, as loose as possible, is you want this row of stitches here to be visible. If you get real tight with these, they're going to come up more. It's going to become more of a top border look, and it's going to be harder because we are going to work one more round here, and you want to be able to see what you're doing. Want a nice finish for this because this is not going to be our finish. So pause the video, finish up doing your little technique here to create that bar, and I will meet you on the other side. And once you, by the way, once you get started with this, it goes very, very quickly. You won't be spending any time at all on this row. Just quickly go around and create that bar. I'll see you in a bit.